Me, y'all, I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I can't help fighting him.
What's up? Summer League Day 1 is still going on, but I really didn't want to cover the Suns and Lakers game and the Nuggets game that's going on. I mean, it was really a waste of time because I kind of want to get the video out before the night was over with, so I didn't have to stay up editing and all that stuff you guys don't really care about. I also missed the Charlotte game, and I missed most of the Raptors game because it's just too much basketball to be trying to cover. Because I mean, I watched a good bit of the Raptors game. I'm actually gonna give my thoughts on Scottie and Malachi Flynn in the comment section, but I feel like it would be dishonest of me to try to sort of give a review of a game that I didn't see that in depth or whatever. That's just not who I am. But I kind of wanted to get to the top of the top guys plus Sharife, because Sharife is good for my bank account and YouTube channel health, because man, them views are coming. But the first game that I kind of wanted to get into was ATL versus Boston. And the main prospects in that game were Jalen Johnson and Sharife Cooper. And those are the two I'm going to talk about from this game, because the rest of these games have extensive notes. So I sort of just want to get these two out of the way. So for Sharife, it's what we've always known about Sharife. He can get 2 feet in the paint at will. For the most part, he generates rim pressure, and he is the best passer I've ever evaluated. And I've seen Trey. I saw Trey at the same stage. I saw LaMelo and all other stuff. Sharife's just a better passer than I feel like any of them were. And I don't know if that was really a hot take or not, but Sharife is a really, really good passer without shooting. So imagine with his shooting indicators, what's going to happen when that sort of comes around. Speaking of the shooting, it still was not great. You can tell he's sort of adjusting to his new, I'm not even going to say his new form, because it's clearly not all the way developed yet. But he's working on it still. But the confidence is something that I liked. Let's go back to the Raptors game. Another thing that I saw with Scottie Barnes is that he was confident taking jumpers. That's all I have to say about that game. For the most part, that's all I really want to say. But Sharife looked good. He still had his warts. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're 5'11", 6 feet tall, you're gonna have some concerns. But one of them that I thought would have shown itself but didn't was the defense. I feel like Sharife was a lot better on defense this game than he got credit for in the draft process, because I don't know, like maybe it was because he's small and refs might allow him to get away with a little bit more. But you could tell, like, Sharife's a strong dude. He wasn't getting, like, taken advantage of at point of attack like that, like you would expect, because he was one of the rougher prospects I've evaluated defensively. And off ball, he was getting into passing lanes. He was shutting down drives by just positioning and stuff like that. I like what I saw from Sharife there. Let's see. Let's look at the notes. That's pretty much... well, I guess the main thing that people say when it comes to guys like Sharife and sort of parallel like Russell Westbrook, they're like, what are you going to do when they sag off? I mean, they're going to do what he's done his entire youth career. He's just going to go past him. I mean, when you're sagging off a guy like Westbrook or Sharife or something like that, it really just doesn't matter. They're too quick. It just, no matter how much you sag off, they're getting by you. And Sharife's small too, so he's like, it's the Westbrook thing, but it's even harder to kind of contest, if you will. But then, when we look at Jalen Johnson, I know the first thing that popped off the screen with me from watching the game was Jalen Johnson was aggressive in this game, and he's ridiculously physical and strong for someone his age, especially. He's very clearly was a top 10 prospect in the class, but you know, politics happen. That's one thing that I really just don't like about youth basketball or amateur basketball discourse. There's a lot of politicking going on to where a top 10 guy like Jalen Johnson could end up 20 or whatever to the Hawks, and they get to stockpile more assets because he pissed in Coach K's Cheerios or some shit during the Duke season. Anyway, he's going to thrive as a play finisher, and if he can carve out minutes from DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, and the rest of the wings, he's going to thrive as a play finisher next to Trae Young, and especially in that short role, he's going to kill having shooters like Bogey, Kevin Huerter, and guys like that. And even like a guy in the dunker spot like Clint Capella, like this offense is going to get real explosive real soon for the Hawks. And another thing about Jalen was the defense came and went. Like he had some defensive flashes. Like we saw I believe it was a steal, and then he had the transition hit ahead thing. And then he had to chase down LeBron block. But there were other times where he just seemed sort of disinterested in what was going on defensively. And he's not physically incapable, and he has the flashes of high feel, but it's just him having to put it together at the end of the day. He did a very good job punishing mismatches, in my opinion. Like, it seemed like the Hawks. I mean, I really wasn't paying attention to him off ball, but I'm sure that it was the Hawks getting him those mismatches. But he was really aggressive when he did get them, and he was effective in punishing them, shooting over guys, and sometimes just straight up bullying. It was really impressive. But yeah, this is pretty much the quintessential Jalen Johnson game, where he just looks like the prototypical modern four. So the next, matter of fact, we're not going to do that one. What we're going to do is we're going to get our video hydration break, sponsored by Zephyr Hills. So now that the hydration break's over, we're going to go to Houston versus Cleveland. And before I start this, I want to say Houston's guards are kind of tailor-made for the Summer League environment, because I saw Jake Luce, I believe, of SIS Sports put this on Twitter, and it rang true, because it's just like the team defense and the communication. These guys have only been together for a couple days. So it's like, of course, the team defense and the help and all the other stuff is just not going to be crisp. It's not just going to be on a rope like it would be in the NBA. So, of course, these tough shot makers and guys who can create their own shots are going to look great in Summer League. So Josh Christopher is going to look good for the most part. Jalen Green's going to look good, and so on and so forth. Anyway, let's get into the prospect we all want to talk about. We want to talk about Jalen Green. And Jalen Green was on one tonight. When I say he was on one, he was on one. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a quintessential Jalen Green game. This time he just wasn't missing, which is, say what you want. If you were high on Jalen Green, you can be like, okay, so this is how he's going to play moving forward. This is just who Jalen Green is. So, yeah, Jalen hit a lot of shots today. They were tough shots at that, incredibly tough shots. But we know that this is sort of what Jalen Green does. The thing that was most interesting to me was the passing flashes out of Jalen, because even since high school, the passing has been suboptimal. But then what I've seen a trend of maybe a development curve, if you will, where high school Jalen started off really poor as a passer. Then G League Ignite, you started seeing the flashes a little bit more. You actually started seeing them in his senior year, but then G League Ignite, you saw them even more, and now they're sort of in full display, where he's in the pick and roll, making some good decisions when he gets downhill. He made a couple of good passes to cutters. Jalen really impressed me overall tonight. It wasn't just the scoring in the offense, because that was going to come regardless. Everyone knows Jalen Green's probably the best scorer in this class. Not probably, he's the best scorer in this class. And him, just like Sharife, he could get into the paint whenever he wanted. I mean, the burst was there. The handle showed a little bit of wiggle. That was a concern I had. I had a concern with the handle, but I mean, look, he has wiggle, he has shake. He can get it off, and the step backs were in full effect for the Rockets tonight, especially for Jalen. And defensively, another prospect that I thought was going to be a little bit more on the weak side defensively, that ended up pretty good. Like, he did a pretty good job navigating around screens and whatnot. He was just overall solid player on the defensive end. Jalen Green really showed out today. He dominated. Let's see if I have anything else for him. He was patient in the pick and roll. And one thing about the broadcast, Fran Fraschilla, oh my God, that was unbearable. He kept talking about the pick and roll with Jalen. Oh, he needs to be in the pick and roll. Or, oh, that was the pick and roll. And I'm just like, fuck, did you just figure out what the fuck the pick and roll is? It's 2021. Like, come on. But anyway, next guy that we're going to get into is, do I want to talk about? Let's talk about Sengun first. Okay, before we get to Josh Christopher, because I don't have much to say. But Sengun, he had a polarizing opening Summer League night, I guess. I butchered that. But it was polarizing because defensively, he was very poor. He couldn't defend in space. He couldn't really defend in the pick and roll like that. Like, it's clear that in the NBA, this is getting exposed by anyone who can put two dribble moves together is getting exposed. So that's one thing about Sengun that I really just wasn't a fan of, and that was one of my bigger gripes with him, like how he was going to translate defensively, and it just looks like not at all. And he looks like he might just barely be 6'9". Like, he looked tiny out there. It looked like Isaac Okoro was roughly his size, and that's not good for his projection moving forward. There was a whole lot of lying going on where people were talking about Sengun might be 6'11". There was a whole slander, libel. Shout out to PC Web. I'm gonna link that Metal Gear Solid meme in the description because that's funny. Anyway, slander, libel, they were lying. Whole lot of lying going on with Sengun Tight. He might be barely 6'9", but he also couldn't stop Evan Mobley from backing him down in the post and really having his way with them, which is suboptimal for a guy who's supposed to be a Vucevic, Valanciunas type, where they're just like these big hulking people to where you're not going to abuse him in the post. But Sengun, his size really limited him, and of course he's young, he's going to put on muscle and whatnot, but that just really wasn't promising to see, because it's just like, okay, you can't defend in space, you can't defend in the pick and roll, you're small, so you can't really drop, and now you can't even defend bigs one-on-one. It's like, what are we really doing here? The one jumper that he did take, it didn't look pretty, but Sengun was productive. He got a lot of rebounds. He's going to be a pretty good rebounder at the next level. Originally, early on in the game, the ball was sticking with him a lot. Like, when he got it, he was trying to score, and that was still an issue, really, throughout the game, where he got the ball and it just stuck. He wasn't passing it out, but he had a couple of nice, flashy, not going to say flashy passes, passing flashes, I should say, in this game, and shit, my camera died. That was horrible. There's going to be a cut. There's just gonna be me here. We don't do any editing here. So Sengun, the ball was sticking with him or whatever. He did a very good job drawing fouls, and he did a very good job of being patient in the post. Meaning, when he does a move, like let's just say he has someone on his back and he does a post spin or something like that, he would pump fake, wait for them to get in the air, and then either draw the contact and get the foul or finish through it or something like that. He was very patient in the post, which is something that we kind of expected from Sengun. And coming from his background where he's a professional basketball player for the most part, he was dominant back then. I mean, it's just sort of par for the course for him, really. Let's see. He was legitimately very good on offense, I'm not going to lie there. And that's pretty much all I have to say about him. Josh Christopher, I don't really have much to say either. When I said the ball sticking with Sengun, it was really sticking with Josh Christopher. He really just wasn't passing. We wasn't interested in that at all. He has very tunnel vision. Like I said the other day about Mac McClung, horse blinders. All they see is straight forward. And that's not really good for them moving forward. But, I mean, in Houston, Jalen Green is going to either be the first or second option. Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be the first or second option. So that might force Josh Christopher to be more of just a play finisher, which might be good for him if he could just focus on defense and finishing and a little bit of creation. I mean, I don't want him bringing the ball to the court and then isolating and all the other stuff, but attacking closeouts, that kind of thing, I feel like that would be very good for his development moving forward. He hit a couple of pull-up mid-ranges, and one thing I did like was the defense. He can play down positions because of his lower body strength. Mobley had him in the post a couple of times, and he just wouldn't budge. He was stonewalling him, and that's one thing about Christopher that I think the Rockets might have liked, because, they're kind of like the switchy, no position sort of thing. So maybe his ability to maybe slot down at 3, or if you're really opted. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go there. So the next guy we're going to get into was Evan Mobley. Very quiet first half. I believe he only had like 4 points and 2 rebounds or something there. But the box score isn't going to tell the whole story with Evan Mobley, especially not tonight, because a lot of the stuff he did was good defensively that didn't result in blocks or steals. And that's how people just watch the box score. That's how they quantify defense. But Mobley was very reliant upon touch and finesse and craft rather than being a physical force, which is something we already knew. Like, as his core gets stronger, as he becomes a stronger player overall, like, some of these finishers are going to become a lot more forceful. And that's kind of scary, considering the touch that he does possess, and the fact that he was physically almost dominant out there at certain times, where it was just like, wow, you can't really do anything with this because he's athletic. He gets off the floor quickly, and the wingspan is what it is. And that's how you end up in plays where he puts his nuts in Sengun's face, like on that play. It's just, stuff like that happens when you have a guy like Evan Mobley with his talents and length and all the other stuff. He was pretty assertive when he got guys on his back. Like when he got guys like Josh Christopher, he had Jalen Green one time, and he did it a couple times to Sengun, which was what I brought up in my prior point, where Sengun really couldn't stop him, or really couldn't stay in his spot. Like Mobley was pushing him, and he really took the matchup seriously against Sengun and Jalen Green. You can kind of tell he was pissed off about how everything kind of shook out, how it was Cade, obviously number one. Jalen Green was the clear-cut number two. Then it was him. You could tell he kind of took the matchup super seriously. Personally, he made a three-pointer, and he was super aggressive inside in the second half. And Mobley is one of those guys that reminds me of Jaren in the sense that their handle is so good for a guy their size. It's like, damn, like, okay, so they're capable in the pick and pop. But then if they do pop, then they can attack the closeout with their ball handling. And I feel like with a guy like Mobley and Jaren, it's going to get to the point where they can self-create from the perimeter, and that's really, really intriguing moving forward. I feel like the Cavs kind of lucked out in the draft because they didn't have to get Jalen Green, and then they didn't have to make the decision between Colin and Darius Garland. Like, Mobley is the perfect fit there because he can clear up some of the weaknesses that Colin Sexton and Darius Garland have, such as the defense and all the other stuff. And I just can't wait for him to get actual NBA guards like Ricky Rubio and Darius Garland. They're going to do wonders for him. Isaac Okoro, he kind of disappointed me tonight. I'm not going to really lie. He didn't look too good for Summer League. He looked good, don't get me wrong, but he didn't look too good for Summer League like I would have expected. He's a very good finisher for the most part. You know, defense, you get what you get. He had some pretty nice passes. They tried to use him more on ball, and that just really wasn't. The handle is what it is. It's just, it's an uphill battle we're fighting here. I'm not a buyer of primary or creator Okoro, at least not yet. But I hope he proves me wrong. The third and last game was the OKC versus Detroit game. Josh Giddey ended up getting hurt, so like it really wasn't as exciting as it could have been. We could have seen 6'8" jumbo initiators because it looked like they were using Josh Giddey as their point guard. So we would have seen that matchup or whatever. In the short, he was out there for like 5 minutes maybe. He looked more explosive than he did previously. He looked more explosive. And one thing that my friend Robel at SubMeN Coach on YouTube, formerly at Robel Tussin on Twitter, shout out to him. He got hired up by a team. Giddey's always been sort of a good accelerator or whatever. That's something that I never really put to paper, but that's something I've noticed. Where it's just like he's good at, okay, he doesn't have the burst to get past people, but like if you give him a screen or something, he gets that little bit of space. He gets to his top end speed pretty quickly. So that's those are my Josh Giddey notes. It was only 5 minutes. I'm sorry. What the fuck do you want me to do? Anyway, Cade and Killian. Okay, they both made a lot of mistakes today. There was a lot of turnovers that happened, and they both get pissed. When I say pissed, they get pissed when they make mistakes. But I'm gonna start off with Cade. Cade is back to early season / high school Cade, where he sort of forgets at times that 9 times out of 10, he's the best option. He was sort of not passive at times, but instead of taking an open shot, he was passing it to Sekou Doumbouya. And then it's just like, what are we doing here? You are the one who just shot 40% from 3. You're gonna pass it from Sekou Doumbouya, who I wouldn't trust to shoot if I gave him a loaded gun. Like that's just sort of, that's just one of the things Cade's gonna have to learn how to. He's going to have to learn how to oscillate between being facilitator Cade and scorer Cade. And that's just one of the things that he's going to have to work on, because at Oklahoma State, we saw him scorer Cade. In Montverde, we saw a more passive Cade. So then I just sort of want to see them to come together to where he can kind of figure out a healthy balance of what he wants to do. And I feel like that's coming soon. So more things about Cade is people question the fit with Killian. And I just don't really see it because Cade is a very capable off-ball player if you want to run Killian as the point guard. I have some thoughts coming later on that, but it wasn't an awesome scoring game for him, but he was pretty awesome defensively. The handle concerns and the burst concerns really showed their faces here. It wasn't it wasn't anything crazy to where he was just getting stonewalled and he couldn't get past guys or whatever, but they showed themselves. They reared their heads. Not gonna lie there, and he wasn't the best. He didn't have the best debut, to be completely honest here. There were. I mean, Tyler Cooks has dicks for hands, so obviously, if he didn't have that. Cade would have more assists or whatever, and the box score look a little bit better. But the game overall, it wasn't the best from him. He was solid, but it wasn't the number one pick. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Green showed out. Evan Mobley had a good game. So it kind of left a sour taste in people's mouth. But I still am without a doubt that Cade Cunningham at number one was the right pick. He still flashed all the stuff that we saw that made him the number one pick. The passing, the defense, the shot making, the getting the guys involved, the leadership, and all the things that makes Cade. We all saw that, but it was just, the shots just weren't falling tonight. And he really did struggle at the rim, which is something that I kind of dismissed that someone in my Discord server said. But I'm sorry for dismissing that because the finishing concerns were evident. Like, for whatever reason, if you blow on Cade, sometimes he will miss a layup. And I don't know what to make of that. And then with Killian, I would really like Killian to use his right hand. It's like his right hand doesn't exist. He's like exclusively left hand. Like, we get it. It's cool flex. You can write with your left hand. Who gives a shit? Because like you need to be able to use your right hand. It was like he was playing with it tied behind his back, and that really limits him. Killian just can't score. It's just something that he's not capable of doing right now. He struggled in the summer league setting doing it. He struggled at the NBA level doing it, and even overseas he kind of had issues with it. Like he's struggling to score. And that's something that Detroit's just going to really have to try to figure out, like, what's the best way to use him. My friend Polar Fall on Twitter, link in the description, obviously. All my friends will be in the description that I mentioned here. He stated that he feels like Killian should be better used off movement and screens rather than, like, letting him get his own off the dribble or whatever. So when him and Cade are in the game, maybe we should just lean a little bit more into Cade should have the ball all the time and just run Killian off of screens and all that. But that's not effective because you're not getting the best out of Killian because Killian's a very effective passer as well. So I'm not really sure. You're just going to have to find a healthy balance between having the two on and off ball. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm happy I don't get paid to figure those kind of things out. But one more thing I did have was I know exactly what Killian's thinking before he does it. Everything he does is like super duper predetermined, if you will. I don't want to use the word predetermined. It's just like the next thing he's gonna do is super obvious. And if I can point it out, I don't know shit about fuck. So, like, if an NBA defender sees that, they obviously know what's coming next. So, it's just sort of like Killian just has to learn how to just let the game come to him instead of predetermined, like, okay, I get the ball, I'm going to do this next. Then I'm going to do this next. And then you can just kind of tell that no matter what the defense does, he's already made up his mind what he's going to do. And that's just one thing that a lot of his flaws, shout out Robo, like I said, he said this earlier as well. A lot of his flaws, if you were a Killian Hayes skeptic, this is a game for you to watch because a lot of his warts really showed their heads today. Let's see. He did pretty good on defense. He was pretty good everywhere else besides, actually scoring the ball. He was good elsewhere, so I'm optimistic in all those other areas of his game, but just the overall scoring just lacked. Let's see. Trey Mann, I'm just going to give you some quick things. He looked horrible as a decision maker. Point guard Trey Mann, it's probably not going to happen, guys. Just being completely honest. Like, the decision making and passing were really poor. The shots also weren't falling. It's just sort of, when the shots aren't falling with Trey Mann, it's just sort of like, yikes. But the other guy that the Oklahoma City Thunder drafted, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, he did a lot of overpassing. He really just cannot jump at all. But the vision's clear. This is going to be a role player who makes quick and the right decisions. He's going to hit open threes. He's going to be able to finish and do all the little role player things. He's one of those connecting pieces that good teams really need. I think it was a good pick for the Thunder. Not sure if that they should have given up future draft capital for him. It's sort of the same argument with Sengun where I was like, okay, fine pick, but did you really have to give up future assets for that? I mean, is it worth it? Probably not. He's going to be a guy that us stat nerds love. He's always making the super smart and quick decisions. He hits his threes, and he's going to be a very good positional defender. meaning not like position logs, because he's pretty good on switches, meaning like he's good at getting in position to cut off drives and stuff like that. Teo Maledon played really good. Maledon. I'm sorry. I'm gonna look it up after this. I'm sorry. Shout out to PD Web at Above the Break 3 for coining the term Academy Brain, which is sort of what I liken to a sunken place from Get Out, to where you can see what you want. You can see the player that Teo Maledon could be, but he's so stuck into doing the next right play or what's best for the team that he doesn't really do what's best for him. And what's best for him oftentimes is better for the team. But you could kind of see that he was fighting that tonight. He was super aggressive. Out of the pick and roll, there was one time he went into a pull-up, which is like, excuse me? Teo, is that you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not the kind of guy that Teo is. So for me to see that in the new aggression, it gives me turbo optimism for his future. He was very aggressive throughout the game. He finished off with like 20 something and 11, almost 12, if someone didn't like fuck up an easy pass. But Luka Garza, another guy that the Pistons drafted, he hit 2 threes. You know what you're getting from him. The mobility, even though he said he lost 30 pounds, good for him, for going vegan or whatever the hell he did. He's not more mobile, really. He hit 2 threes, gave you the productivity, rebounding wise, and still very poor defensively. He really just can't move at all. But those are pretty much it. That's pretty much it for the games. Aaron Wiggins looked pretty good as well. Had some nice handle flashes in this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you. If you guys can, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know who you were one take, but who you were most impressed of from these games. Thank you. Bye.